game to in the sweeping totem and get the upgrade there. So there's no real gold loss. It's still a very efficient route. But teams, you know, even professional teams and other teams disagree over the value of spending that 250 gold. If you have a spare 250, go for it. But if it means, you know, a change in offensive stats, maybe just pass it up.
Well, we'll have to see now. But we're into the draft here for game 1. IG on the blue side for the first game. Vici over on the red. Jana, Zereth, and Lysandra IG's 3 bans. So that is going to change things up already, especially for Hetong there. We've got Ari Hecarim with 1 more to go for Vici.
Yeah, the Hecarim ban I like. Target towards Zatar. You have to think this champion was going to be that much smaller than other top laners because, again, he's new to the role. Is he practicing on solo queue and scrims? We'll have some champions. His Gnar was actually very impressive in one of the series late last week. Annie's the last ban. Gnar is available, has seen a few nerfs, but the Graves could be hotly contested as they, you know, consider some options.
Yeah, curious last ban there actually with the Annie, but IG going to go through some different champions. I mean, Zatai classically was a very versatile player from the mid lane, but like you mentioned, the top side is a new role for him, so I'll be interested to see what sort of stuff he brings to the top lane each week.
I mean, you have to remember that Carrie is a famous Lee Sin player. We've seen, sorry, as a famous Riven player. We saw her Riven against Cassidy in the Vici vs OMG series last week, so I think just kind of putting it to him, just saying, hey, I know about your Riven, and I'd be surprised to see it picked up, and this, of course, makes so much more sense. The first pick, Rek'Sai.
Yeah, Rek'Sai, we talked about it. It's probably the most contested pick between these two teams, especially. Both Cacao and Dandy have looked wonderful on it when they've got it, so Cacao will get it at least for this game, and Vici going to give a little back there to Zatai.
The Fizz hover is an interesting one. You know, we never know with the LPL. We saw Vega support leap out very fast overnight, you know, coming back from the Chinese New Year holiday, and then suddenly Vega support, Vega bans in every game. Fizz jungle, it worked for Insect last game. Dandy maybe shouting out his brethren or considering it as an option for Vici.
Yeah, I like that carry. Went through the Riven as well, but they're going to go through some different picks instead. We've already seen a Nidalee ban in the previous series as well, so Dandy might just take it given that it's open, and they are going to go for it. Mata's going to get Thresh, and Nidalee's probably going to be the jungler there for Vici.
I mean, Nidalee puts out so much jungle pressure. It doesn't really make sense. When you look at her kit, not much CC there. Of course, we expect CC from a lot of those junglers, but her ganks are so strong because her damage is so damn high. You hit those max range spears, you get the potential to have that targeted gap closer in Pounce, and you do a lot of damage. Okay, she's not going to power clear the jungle. You don't really have level 3, level 4 dragon pressure necessarily after the changes on Nidalee, but still very powerful from the jungle. It was banned in the first series and picked up here.
Yeah, IG now, I believe, have locked in Gnar now as well, so Zatai will get a champion that you mentioned. He performed very well in one of his last games last week, and it's going to be Kalista again here for Kid.
I mean, the Kalista pickup's fine. I mean, I'm not really sure whether we're going to see people move further and further away from the Renset build, the Bloodthirster Hurricane build, with that attack speed change in regards to how it interacts with Martial Poise. It's that much more difficult to use, you know, abuse the passive and really spread the rend onto the enemy targets. Maybe we'll see more of the single target Infinity Edge into Static Shiv Kalista builds come through, but we'll have to wait and see. Diana did see some buffs this patch, another champion that's coming through, and wow, it's locked in.
Yeah, they're going to go for Diana, and actually going to give Vasily an old school champion for him in some senses. Lucian is going to be locked in for him against the Kalista. We see it a lot more against Corki, but I think this is its first outing against Kid's Kalista.
And this is with Graves available. We've talked about how strong his Graves win rate would be as KDA dwarfs his other champions. Moves away from the Graves. In a lot of cases, Lucian lanes similarly to Graves, so they are quite similar champs. Against Kalista in the early levels, especially before attack speed is picked up, you can definitely use the Piercing Light to get those favorable trades with the Kalista before she gets enough attack speed to kind of hop away from that ability. So in terms of laning, it's just fine, but the Diana lock-in, basically a blind pick Diana, could necessarily, I guess it could be a top lane Diana. Of course, they have a Nidalee. We've seen some mid-Nidalee players, so there is a lot of considerations coming through. Now, this would maybe be a bridge too far as he considers the Cho'Gath, but the Victor lock-in for a rookie in the mid lane, that's a return to form. Raphael brought it to the LPL. It's across the world scene. The champions locked in.
Yeah, I mean, IG have really opened up the draft here. They've gone for Victor Leona as their last 2 picks, so really curious stuff. I like you mentioned Nidalee. I believe Hetong is the Nidalee player as well, but Vasily was the first person to play Lucian in the LPL this split here as well, so clearly a comfort champion for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another strong laning champion. Late game does a lot of damage, can be a tank buster. They've been considering Cho'Gath for a long time.
No more consideration, Bubba Smithy. Cho'Gath is locked in.
Vici are trying something real different. Of course, we have seen mid Cho'Gath coming out of Ninja earlier in the season on World Elite. It's at least at the moment, they're considering top Diana. Vici, what are you doing?
Well, clearly something a bit different here. Going to take Diana and Cho'Gath into some of the solo lanes. Looks like Dandy will hold on to the Nidalee. He could realistically jungle with any of the 3 champions in the top half of Vici's draft, but we talked about 5.4. We expected things to get mixed up here. No obvious changes that really spring out to me for these champions, but Vici are trying something.
So my notebook wasn't quite prepared for some of the lock-ins that are coming. We're going to start seeing these matchups. So the casual Diana versus Gnar top lane matchup. The last time we saw off-meta against Gnar, it was the Annie, and that definitely left a lot to be desired coming from Lupa. They're trying something very different with the Diana.
Yeah, we're going to have, I guess now more a standard jungle matchup at least. We're going to have Kakal's Rexo, probably his best performing jungler versus Dandy Nidalee. Same could be said there. This one we haven't seen before, though. We talked about Hetong having to move to different champions with Azir falling out and Xerath being banned. Cho'Gath is very different. You are correct.
Cho'Gath's different. I mean, Ninja laned with it fine, but in the late game, the big issue with AP Cho'Gath is long cooldowns, especially on his Q and W ability. If you miss those abilities, if they're flashed out of in a fight, you just don't really provide very much. You can get some auto attacks in, apply your E, but it's dwarfed compared to other champions. You do have assassination potential against the Victor. If you can get on top of him and assassinate him, then his consistent damage, his mobility is negated when he's popped up and silenced. But they're going for something real different here, Vici Gaming.
Well, we'll see what they can get done. Let's get onto the Rift. And welcome onto the Rift here. Not quite yet. We do have a quick pause here to start things off here over on, I think, the Vici side there. But we already have a lot to talk about here. So while we have a bit of a break, let's go through it. Vici Gaming. We talked about it. They needed to mix some stuff up. They've been having some fun in the Demacia Cup. Mata there is maybe not having as much fun, maybe feeling the weight of the $8,000 fine on his shoulders a bit there. But Cho'Gath and Diana are currently champions Vici are playing that they chose to play in this game.
So just to clarify, this is the LPL. Now, we're not casting the Demacia Cup, so they are taking this game seriously. They're going outside the box. The Diana top... See, I actually considered a Diana versus Victor mid lane matchup because you remember in the past, Orianna, the control mage in mid lane, Diana was one of her hardest counters because post 6, able to close the difference, do a lot of skirmishing in short range. Against Victor, getting a melee range of the Chaos Storm, maybe not the best idea, but I thought maybe that was the same kind of line of reasoning they're going down. Diana as a melee champion with a bit of ranged wave clear with her Q against the Gnar is interesting to me because I believe it will still lane like a lot of these Gnar matchups against melee. It's still going to be a lot of Gnar pushing and he's resourceless, able to auto attack with reckless abandon against Diana, who does have good wave clear when she gets a lot of points in her Q. She's had to start a lot of regen, maybe with some Doran rings, be able to navigate laning phase fast. I mentioned the Diana buffs that have come through, so her shield is that much more responsive, so basically you get the second application of the shield that more often. So in terms of trades, she's been buffed, but in terms of laning, probably going to struggle against the manaless, the resources to tie. And against the top laner who's just new to the position, kind of not going to be able to apply that much pressure, you'd have to say, with the Diana pick against the Gnar.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well. I like that you mentioned buffs, but I guess that may be closer to quality of life change. She's been cleaned up a little bit, but we saw it before this patch happened through. Some people were experimenting with Diana as well.
Wayless in the mid lane.
He plays everything. Yeah. And I mean, Hetong here as well, going to play a champion we have already seen in the mid lane in Cho'Gath. So lots of stuff here for Vici, but we mentioned it, some teams are going to be trying new stuff. Vici are certainly trying something new here. So IG versus Vici here, our first game of the best of 2. Kind of a lot of stuff that we've seen a little bit more around the LPL coming through. Rookie here on the Victor kind of springs to mind as well, but Vici are really stirring the pot for game 1.
I was mentioning the win rate on Carry's Rumble pre-game. It was the 7-2 win rate, 5-3 on Gnar. The win rate really falls away outside of his comfort zones for someone who's been so known for keeping it consistent, playing so many games with these champions he's practiced upon. To just leap off and play the Diana is very surprising. And in general, Vici's pick and ban, super surprising across the board. But you have to think, if they get success, they'll be playing these champions a lot. They do like to keep the consistency. But to say this is a curveball from Vici is such an understatement, given that they've been, Graves works, let's play Graves. That's just kind of been their mindset. And now they're mixing it up just amazingly.
Yeah, it seems to have maybe an early lane swap coming through here as well, as Kid is actually rotating up towards the top side with Kitty. So they will get a successful swap. Don't want to put the Kalista up against the Lucian.
No, and it ends up in Diana in a lane swap. In early level, she's going to eat a lot of harass from the auto attacks. It doesn't have a lot of wave kill, just gets multiple points in her Q. May even have to get multiple points in the shield just to last the laning phase. Melee champion in a 1v2, never going to be happy. And has a bit of range wave clear, but has to push the wave in a lot of times to be able to pick up any of those CS. So definitely not a kit tuned for a 1v2.
No, kind of interesting adaptation as well. Both dual lanes actually taking the Grump away from their jungler, so going to get that early experience. Vici will share experience there as well. IG's dual lane's going to do the same here, but in a lane swap, does that early level 2 or early advantage affect anyone at all?
I mean, you say early level 2. Vici actually gets solo experience, so he will hit level 2. Gives him more tools. Does give him escape, you'd have to think. Probably not going to take the Ardent Blaze at level 2. Already starts the trading with Zatai.
Yeah, going to get aggressive. Zatai in the Gnar. We've seen Gnar in a couple of lane swaps, I feel like. He's fine, I feel like, but I think the biggest thing is that he gets further away from getting his quick, big tank items faster.
So I didn't consider one factor, Julian. It's actually, well, Pastry. One thing that sticks out, Diana is a very fast jungler. So her jungle follow, she will be able to power farm the jungle follow impressively, like more than you'd ever expect. Dandy's no slouch on the Nidalee. But actually being able to jungle follow on Diana, she has a very, very fast jungle clear time. You don't see her from the jungle very often because without her gap closer, she's not really able to get in melee range and apply her E for CC. But her jungle follow is super fast. And look at this, she's just soloing down the wolf camp. This is the adaptation I wasn't expecting, but very clever from Vici Gaming.
Very clever here, and we might even see a quick dragon coming through as well, especially with Vici monopolizing the bottom side of the map. And Rookie now, that's going to last hit as best he can. Her Tong's already leaving his lane for a quick shop.
But Kid smartly has been pushing in this top lane wave. They're not going to lose a lot of CS though. Level 2, let's actually have a look at the experience bar on Diana. Actually, one creep away from level 3, but look at the timing.
Yeah, going for a dive. They're good. Umbaro, they're on to carry for the knock up. The exhaust down there as well. The Rend stacking up now, but Dandy's actually towards the top. Kid flashes forward, gets the Rend down. Cacao with the Prey Seeker looking in again. He gets a little low. Dandy's cutting back around the resets there on the monsters. Kid leaps into the spear that might have killed Cacao, and nobody dies here.
2v3 and 1v3 for the most of that skirmish. You see how tanky Carry is on this, as we see in the bottom lane, a dive coming through on this Diana. Very important that Vici lived, because as you mentioned, it was a very aggressive teleport. The wave was clumped. It was smart pathing from Cacao to be there for the dive. They just underestimated how tanky Diana is.
Yeah, and a great room there for Dandy. Again, the king of the counter gank showing up massive there on the top side. In fact, even back here just in for a bit of 2v2. The dive you mentioned will get Vici not a kill, but at least some pressure on the tower. And Dandy posturing very aggressively.
Yeah, able to jungle and actually open up a CS advantage Carry in the top lane as Dandy trying to just relieve some pressure from Carry. He's able to pop his potions, of course, has a lot of potions and also the sustain coming through from the crystalline flask. You have to say the cloth armor probably saved him.
I mean, it did as well. It might even help him do a bit of extra jungling. So really smart stuff early on here for Carry. In fact, they're going to continue doing the Krugs together there as Kid just tries to keep up in CS, continue pushing.
I just love it when teams think on that just extra level that I wasn't considering. The jungle follow opened up so many strategies for Vici because he was so close to level 3 the moment he teleported in, 1 melee minion away from level 3, because he's able to solo down these camps so fast during the jungle follow. That flexibility, the teleport was too aggressive, or overly aggressive as we had Diana falling low in health, but still 2v2 actually in the top lane. The jungler, Dandy, is just staying in lane.
Yeah, Dandy stayed there, and I think they actually towered over, which is why Carry got solo, because Kitty's almost died there as well, but IG's dual lane will stay safe for now here, and a lot of early movement here in this one. Cacao, though, you have to think, getting a lot of farming done now on his Rek'Sai.
Definitely a lot more experienced. It's level 4 to level 4, so no big advantages for either of the junglers, but, you know, going to go back to away with even more regen is Carry. He's going to try and navigate the 1v2. Not having a lot of fun, but navigating it the best he can.
A good hop there from Zatai. Will keep his CS up the best he can, but Vasily and Mata being very aggressive here, slow pushing the wave in, trying to deny Zatai as much as possible. And this is the thing, it's consistent against lane swaps when you play a Gnar. He needs to be tanky to really be effective in team fights, and it just delays his build so much
It's
more.
actually worse for Zatai than you understand, Patient Time. They're not slow pushing in, it's actually pushing against Zatai. So they're going to start freezing this wave. Zatai's going to have to farm with this max range boomerang toss, which only will, unfortunately, you'd have to think in a lot of cases, push out the wave further unless he gets the snipe. Actually misses a CS as he tries to CS in the bottom lane. Yep, no fun for Zatai in this 1v2.
Yeah, you're right there. That wave not in a good spot, but Rookie, he's just fine here, pushing in now on the Victor. Level 6 here, just a slight experience edge on the choker. Double Doran so early for Rookie, and it's just single Doran with probably a catalyst coming there for Hetong with his Ruby Crystal.
Right, just pick up a bit more health. Of course, so innately tanky once he's able to pick up those feast stacks. AP Cho'Gath 2 times out. It's not something I expected from the LPL, but These curveballs, they're impressive.
Well, if we're going to see it anywhere, it's probably in the LP. I've already seen some crazy stuff here, and Vici are going real crazy here in this one. And I guess as things have quietened down a little bit, Vici obviously playing the early game with the top side of the map, especially between Dandy and Carry very well. But even though the picks are a bit odd, is there any big cohesive thing that you can see just from a preliminary sense about what the comp might be trying to accomplish?
I mean, at the end of the day, the Diana is going to be very strong in team fights for gap closing against Rookie, and in general, they have a lot of tools to make Rookie's life a living hell in fights. Between the dive coming through from Diana with the CC, and then just if you apply any of that Cho'Gath CC, specifically the silence and assassinate down Rookie, basically Victor's about controlling a team fight with the use of the gravity field, with the consistent damage coming out, because of course with so much mobility, if you go the Fura Boots route, but just in general when you pick up the Q augment, you move around fights so often you can do consistent damage to complement the burst. The reason why Victor wasn't played before is that people kind of pigeonholed him to burst. He did a lot of burst with the Chaos Storm, but not a lot else. Or at least that was the perception of Victor. If you can kind of funnel him into one of those two things, whether it's consistent damage or just burst, but not both, it kind of invalidates the Victor pickup. So if they can really deal with Victor well in fights, I feel like they'll unsettle a lot of what IG are trying to do in this game.
Yeah, I think so too. As we look back on the top side carry, level 6 already actually really far ahead of CS there in the top side. Zatai at 13 and carry, more than doubling that, currently at 28. So looking strong on Diana. Kid, though, to answer one of your earlier questions during the draft, has actually gone for a quick recurve vote as his first item.
Won't be quite able to hop around with Marshall Boys as much as he might want, but actually being able to force carry away from turret. No kill pressure, even though he has level 6, does have the ability to Fate's Call. Don't have enough CC, too much gap to close, and 29 to 14 CS, as you mentioned. Just being able to snipe CS with the Q happily as Diana now has the extra mobility from the level 6.
Yeah, and pause Zatai, you know, like you mentioned, the carry player of old. They have to think the carry top laner as well. Keep being put down here in some stages in the bottom side of the map. And that tower goes down there. Vasily and Mato trim up a big wave and then push it in. And they're going to go for a quick dragon now before IG can rotate back down.
And Diana doesn't even need to teleport out, at least at the present. Doesn't look like there's any reaction. There's some pings coming through. And in the bot lane, Zatai has to flash.
They're getting chased there. Mata, their flash hook in there. Vasily with the ulti, and first blood will go to Lucian.
I mean, you should never bet against Marta's Death Sentence. I thought for sure he'd get away with the flash, but the Death Sentence, aptly named. They pick up first blood. They also take the dragon during the trade. Everything going well for Vici Gaming.
Yeah, and Marta constantly getting Janna banned away from him. She was even nerfed slightly as well, or changed at least in the recent patches. This Cacao on the top side, getting a flash on both their ones to carry. That will force a flash, but the exhaust comes through. A good Q and E back in there as well. Might be able to get the trade kill. Kid gets the first one, and great tower juggling there from IG.
Cacao lives on 2-figure health, about 80 health, but was able to survive at the counter dive coming through from carry. Successful turret dive this time. They had the exhaust available as well. IG, they pick up a kill, but they need to pick up a turret. And with these people reacting, you can see on the minimap, they're not going to be able to pick up a structure to answer Vici.
Yeah, Vasily and Marta with Dragon down on the bottom side, happily switching towards the top nose. Kitty actually has to be careful. If he gets hit by a stray hook, might find himself in a whole host of trouble, but will back off safely towards his outer turret there. And we're going to leave Marta now in the top side with Vasily, and that's almost an infinity edge jump for this Lucian.
It was worth knowing that Marta was positioning aggressively as if he had flash hook available. Did not have flash. It was a bit of mind games. It delays the backs, and now they can hit an unanswered turret. Maybe even DPS it down. He has a lot of flat ID, as you mentioned, Vasily, on his way to an Infinity Edge. And right now, no bot lane to answer the strong push.
And you mentioned similarities between Graves and Lucian. Graves, of course, the big Vasily champion recently. Lucian, fairly similar. And if they're already doing the same thing, dragons down, rotate into the top, try and get more turrets down.
I mean, the game plan stays the same, despite the picks changing completely. Like, this is a complete new identity pick-wise for Vici. But this is the game plan that's brought them so much success, and they keep it up.
Yeah, Zatai, though, Mega now form in the bottom side, actually, with Cacao in his pocket there just towards the top left, maybe looking to come in and gank poor carry again. But Diana holding fast right now. Zatai has caught up in CS now that people have left his lane, so that's good news at least. But carry again, also keeping up at CS. Early arm guard done as well. Going to get much needed creeps down out from under the turret.
You need to understand, despite the fact this is an AP Cho'Gath, and it is a Cho'Gath pick, he's still not going to be building overly tanky. We expect at least some AP coming through. With the first pickup, has health, but mostly going to be focusing for the AP on the Rod of Ages. Maybe an Abyssal Scepter to amplify Carry's damage, but Carry's probably going to be the dive champion. Cho'Gath doesn't dive. He's able to poke with CC from range, but the dive will come through from Carry. So Abyssal Scepter, Zhonya's in particular, just for a bit of stasis in the front line. Diana double scales with AP so well on her shield defensively. In the last game, we were actually talking about how the Lulu AP was mostly for the utility. In this case, it's going to be for the shielding for herself. To be able to dive in, you know, with that extra reliability, as you mentioned, with the quality of life changes on the shield, going to be very tanky in fights, despite the fact that she's able to build AP. Just be a pseudo Akali with all those gap closes.
Yeah, again, a very weird comp here for Vici that they've put together, but it'll be interesting to see sort of how it unfolds here as we move through the rest of the game. And Vici have a slight lead, but a very close early game so far here. 12 minutes in, a Dragon has gone to Vici as well, so they're starting to pick up some advantages.
I mean, in a split push, Diana's excellent as well. Probably not going to be the Nationals Tooth build, just because it has to build combat stats to be able to take in fights. I see you peering very specifically at the screen.
Yeah, the thing about Victor is you never quite know which augments he has. I'm trying to figure out. He does have the Death Ray one already, but I think he might have an early Q upgrade as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the Aftershock, as you mentioned, was the first upgrade. But the second upgrade, in the top lane, we're seeing a big battle.
Yeah, Cal gonna try and move out of the way. Matza getting lower. Good fate score there from Kid. Will keep his support safe as Kiddies pops out on Leona, but Vici getting very aggressive in the top side jungle.
Yeah, her tongue was trying to get a pick in transition. Wasn't able to walk off the gravity field to get the flash feast in. Wasn't able to pick up the kill. Vici really want this out of turret. 5 members strong.
Yeah, everyone here. Kid actually get hit by a spear as well, and that's a little too much damage to Ty, though. Gonna bound in. Vasily gets out with a lantern to Tong. Round the side, Dandy misses the next spear to Ty. Back in mini now form, though, and Carry gets the first kill onto Kid. Dandy back down himself. Rookie goes in. Just gets the kill onto Mata. 1v4, and now Kakao's coming around the side. Gonna try and lock up Dandy, but takes too much damage and goes down to Cho'Gath. Now her Tong running back in, though. Low on health will get kited out by Zatai. Victor did go down after the flash in, and Carry's moving back as well. Zatai kiting in and out. Kiddies does not have anything else to contribute. Zatai's going to get low. Will go down to Vasily, and Kiddies probably going to meet the same fate. Another kill completed. 10 people in the top lane, and an ace completed by Vici.
You see the power of the skirmishing coming through from the Diana. Was able to gap close multiple times in the fight. And importantly, Vasily, the person who had the most AD early, stayed alive, was able to DPS through the fight. And Vici's comp, it's scattershot. It's interesting in a lot of ways, but so successful in that skirmish.
Yeah, and have to give credit to Dandy there as well. The early Magus, I believe, that he had for that exchange. That spear did so much damage to Kid before the dive happened.
Yeah, the power spikes, as you mentioned, were in Vici's favor. You saw the value of the arm guard. Tanked about 4 or 5 turret shots did Carry before they were finally able to take down the turret on the extended dive. The important factor, though, as I mentioned, they took down the turret. They took down the outer objective. They're winning in kills, objectives, and dragons. You can't ask for anything more from Vici games.
No, that sounds like the Vici we've been seeing. They've been so successful, like you mentioned, in recent weeks of the LPL. They're even setting up their vision already, trying to get their second dragon, which is up in 45 seconds. So lots of good items coming through. Infinity Edge done now for Vasily. Even Carry has a Stinger, just to start things off for Diana.
Yeah, I mean, the Stinger suggests split push, and that was what I was expecting, is that Diana's split pushing is underrated just because, again, able to apply that passive so often with the attack speed pickup from the Stinger. I'd be surprised to see the Nationals Tooth being committed to, just because it's a lot of gold and it doesn't help her in terms of tankiness. We already saw that Carry's going to spend a lot of these team fights in the backline, dive in the backline, trying to apply CC and doing consistent damage. And if she goes too squishy, going to be very pigeonholed into split pushing rather than team fighting.
Yeah, and I think you can see after that dive in the top side, kind of what IG's comp does at a basic level. You know, Victor does a lot of AoEs, the Ty's able to run in, really make plays, and Kid just kind of plays janitor duty and cleans up. Didn't work out. Vici performed a great dive in the top side to complete that ace, but IG definitely have wriggle room here in this comp.
And one of the reasons why I actually appreciate the wiggle room mention is that the reliability of Vici's comp is actually quite low. If you don't hit those spears, Nidalee, not as useful. As Mata misses, but we're going to see a fight.
Good double flare there coming in. Rookie getting very low. Kakao going to dive back in, and Kiddies going to get the first kill onto Mata. Carry gets low there as well, being chased up by Zatai. Throws a boomerang at his back, and that's 3 kills already. Victor's AoE comes up big.
Yeah, Victor's AoE does fall, but they pick up the 3 kills. They want this outer turret. Dragon's actually up. They're going to elect to take the Dragon safer. I thought for sure that'd be Vici's fight, because Vasily, look at his items. Red buff, Infinity Edge, even some extra crit coming out from the Avarice Blade, but the picks are thick and fast for IG, and they just want the Dragon.
Yeah, a little too aggressive there for Mata. Kid chucking spears into the Dragon now as well. Kakao does have his smite, so this should be a very easy secure, and here's now Zatai going to bundle back in. Dandy forced to move out there as well, so Ty will slow him down with the boulder toss there, throwing a house at Dandy, but the Dragon goes to IG, now even between the two teams.
For the excitement, although we will see Vici take the last of the outer turrets, so this opens up the 3 outer turrets, opens up putting in so many aggressive wards. Vasily has to respect the damage.
Yeah, respect the gravity field as well. Rookie just saves that turret, and Vasily forced to back away with the lantern.
I was actually going to comment on the fact that the Morellonomicon wasn't the pickup. It was actually saw the Q augment before the Morellonomicon was completed. We've seen a lot of Aftershock augment into Morellonomicon, then getting the second augment on the Victor. I was surprised with the low CDR, but actually goes for the CDR boots just to get that bit more CDR. The consistent damage, he's opting into it with those boots choice.
Yeah, Rookie just a bit more of like you said, a sustained damage build here. Going to help Kid clean up a lot of these fights. And that's kind of a cool aspect of the comp I didn't think about until now is that, you know, a lot of Ren stacks out from the Hurricane there from Kid. Kalista likes to clean up fights and hop through them. Victor is very good at setting up for that sort of reset-oriented fight.
Yeah, just ability to put down the gravity field that much more often, have to respect the AoE coming down, makes turret pushing very good. So the moment they can start answering turrets, they're only one turret behind, so not a massive turret hole to come back in. It's a very reliable team comp from IG, and the reason why I talk about reliable is that we already mentioned Nidalee, she hits the spears or she doesn't. You know, her team fights going forward can be very powerful, but on the defensive, she struggles. Cho'Gath, one of the reasons he's not played, his reliability is very low. He has a long-range skill shot with a, I believe, 0.75 second ramp-up time. So if you don't hit that skill shot, okay, it has a high base damage, I believe 300 damage, has a 1 AP scaling, so it does scale very well, but if you don't hit that skill shot, and the Feral Scream will only realistically hit a diver as a melee range AP carry, you don't necessarily always do a lot in a fight, and the reliability for those two champions might let down what Vici are trying to do.
Well, Vici still have a slim lead here, so we'll see just how much of it they can hold on to here as you move through the rest of the game. 1,500 gold or so ahead for Vici. Vasily, like you mentioned, getting bigger here on this Lucian, but Kid as well, almost done with his Bloodthirster, so early items coming too quickly, and Dandy has a needlessly large rod in his Nidalee build.
Actually, not even going for the Seraph's Embrace Rush, actually just has the 1,600 gold, so picks up a very expensive item for a jungler especially. That's the reason you don't see a lot of needlessly large rod pickups in the jungle. You don't see a lot of AP junglers, but when you do, saving up 1,600 gold as a jungler is a very difficult thing to do. You're usually about cost-effective stats, whether it's the Hex Drinker on the AD or tanky junglers or other kind of smaller pickups like the Seeker's Arm Guard. Saves up the money, opts into the needlessly large rod.
Yeah, and it's funny that we mentioned the two junglers for these teams and talked about how Dandy had moved away sort of from the more utility-oriented style. Cacao, he's just kept there. He's played a lot of Rex sites, built a lot of Sightstones on that champion as well, and Dandy going full carry mode almost on his Nidalee.
But you don't really see the advantage of the Sightstone coming out in terms of vision for IG. They've got double Sightstone, but their warding is... They have wards over their own red buff, but definitely no aggressive wards. Even though it's 7-7, only a 2,000 gold lead, you can definitely see that IG think they're losing this game. You can tell that their warding kind of betrays that. The sweeper already completed 4 sweepers on the side of Vici to answer the wards that are being put down. They're definitely not building advantage from the double Sightstone.
No, and Vici are getting aggressive as well. Dandy putting traps and wards throughout the jungle, looking to maybe steal away the blue buff here. Mata actually going to go in, but Cacao well and truly out of position. Gets knocked up there as well, and Dandy just collects the kill. The Chaos Storm will move out. That Kid is though going to get poked down to about a quarter of the health despite the W on there, and Vici 5v4 now. Zatai also gets speared.
Yeah, a double Sightstone comp going for an aggressive pick and just not having the wards to be able to execute it. Basically suicided for no advantage. Thought he was going for a 1v2 or a 1v1. As we try and see who got the blue buff, I believe it was Rookie.
Yeah, Rookie did manage to steal it away there with a death ray, I believe. So very smart stuff there coming through. Will deny at least that pick for Vici, but they lost their jungler for it, and Vici going to continue to play aggressively in IG's jungle.
Just pushing advantage as much as possible. And now the Nationals Tooth is the completion for carry. So for them to be winning and not even needing to look for team fights because they have so much pressure coming out of the Nationals Tooth Diana, pick comes on to Cacao. Probably not going to lead to anything. This Diana, she pretty much wants to split push until the Zhonya's is complete.
I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think Dandy opens up a lot of that room on this Nidalee. He's able to pressure very effectively. You see he's hitting a lot of spears and moving through and getting aggressive vision. You talked about Nidalee being a high-pressure jungler. Dandy is demonstrating exactly how that works.
And it's been surprising that a lot of junglers in the LPL haven't necessarily picked up this Nidalee. You know, MLXG, Dandy, Spirit, all excellent Nidalee players, but not everyone's picking it up. And even on this 5.4 patch, when the jungle clear speed has been nerfed considerably, it's only really the top junglers that are really able to win games with the Nidalee. Of course, when you're able to put out pressure, when everyone's on the defensive because you have ward control of the enemy. And remember, this is with a single Sightstone against a double Sightstone. To have this much map vision just shows the excellent of Vici's rotation, specifically Dandy and Mata. You know, they're the vision duo, and even with less resources, have been able to outward IG. And yeah, I mean, IG at this point, they tried an aggressive pick and they paid for it.
They did. I mean, we've got a Randu and Zump as a tie. We've got the Bloodthirster done now for Kid. People are building up items here, but IG still look a little bit scared, honestly, to try and get some sort of initiation going. Vici playing on the front foot. Rookie, it's a spear that goes to 60% health, and IG just can't afford to siege like this. Cho'Gath actually very good at both in pushes and counter pushes.
I mean, interestingly, maybe you just use the Q to zone people off turrets, but speaking of Qs...
Mata went in, then immediately flashes out, maybe regrets that decision. Hatong gonna look in, does find Kitty's there for the knock-up. The spears will follow in as well. Lantern moves him out. Kid gonna get caught out there as well. The face happens, and Vici able to clean out that kill. Now Carry gonna flash away. There's a Tide trying to get enough range, but he can't do it yet. Mata will grab him in there. Another great play moves in. Hatong gonna get the kill into Rookie. Cacao gonna go down there as well. So Tide gonna be the next one to get low. And Vici with a triple kill for Lucian, get a clean ace.
But the key factor there, Page Time, is Kid was in no man's land, completely split away from his team, was assassinated by Vici of all people. 3 members able to assassinate down Kid, and just everyone else's positioning was opened up by the AD carry, the crown jewel, the Renset King, and Kalista just dying at the start of the fight.
And you know, that's not the team fight that IG want when they pick this comp, and Mata might have looked a little suicidal going in there with the death sentence, but knows his team is much better equipped to win those scrappy sort of engagements, and that's what it was. It was very messy, it was very scrappy, but Vici made it work.
And I can't recall if he had complete understanding of where Kid was positioned, but if he did, an absolute masterstroke from the season 2014 season MVP Mata. Definitely on his game now. Say what you will about the Demacia Cup, but Vici 2-0 the first time these two teams met. Definitely in the advantage here, although they may give up a dragon.
Cacao actually already used his ulti to move down. Hatong actually going to come in. He actually has his ultimate, so could maybe entertain a steal, but can't quite get in there fast enough. Dandy going to leap forward. Cacao will get it and get out with a tunnel. Mata almost hooked him out of it. Zatai just going to dodge the spear narrowly there as well. And Invictus Gaming, they'll take what they can.
The tunnel travel speed was just quick enough to evade the death sentence coming from Mata. Vici, they're going to clear out some of these pink walls that have been put down aggressively. So IG had tried to get as much vision as possible. They get the dragon they're looking for. But it's, you know, it's 2 dragons to 1. It's not a massive advantage for the dragons on IG.
Yeah, Hatong now big. Cho'Gath actually got a need to see large rod and a Morello Nomicon to go with his early Rod Evaders plus cooldown boots. Doing a lot of wave clear, just being very scary, and honestly, did respectable burst with his ultimate in that last fight.
I mean, look, if you stack AP, it's a good AP ratio. I believe 0.7 is the AP ratio on the Feast, so it's able to do a lot of true damage. The 40% CDR actually really interests me because I like the idea of just pushing down mid, just putting out zoning ruptures and trying to take a turret. Of course, Gravity Field is used in a very similar way. You know, we've seen a lot of Corki Victor for that reason. Put down the Gravity Field and take down a turret with the Trinity Force procs. I like the idea of using the Rupture. It's on, I believe, a 4-second cooldown when you have the 40% CDR. Just use it to zone. It's a massive AoE. And teams are starting to understand as we move patches, any champion who has those long-range, good utility AoE abilities can force people into positional mistakes and can help you to take these objectives.
Oh, absolutely. And look, if you're going to play a comp around Danny's Italy especially, who, by the way, now has a Zhonya's complete to going with the jungle. Yeah, the casual Zhonya's from the jungle. Cho'Gath is very good in any sort of poke-oriented comp, so I like what it's doing here. Not entirely convinced where Carry fits into the equation at this point, but he's got his Zhonya's now as well. So if Vici do want to fight, they can, and Cacao eats a spear. The Dandy gonna dive in and just does so much damage on the Nidalee. Lanterns out as well. Beautiful play by Vici.
Yeah, the gap close coming through from Carry was so important to pick up because not respecting the Diana initiation potential. They're going to take this turret. They have the Baroned up minions. And the front line, it's only Zatai with Cacao dead.
And Prophet Papa at it again. Just there you saw the zones they're putting out by Cho'Gath. Mata zoning as well with his hook range. And Vici just going to move in for an inhibitor turret now.
I mean, space control comps always really interest me because they force people into poor decisions. If you got a Rupture on one side, the hook on the other side, where do you position? You have to go defensively. You have to kite and retreat towards your base. But not kiting. That's actually the solar flare use, but no result.
Yeah, Hatong does a very nice job of zoning people up. Vici posture aggressively forward, but they'll just take the inhibitor here. That's all they need. They just want to poke them off. Dandy even throws the spear into Rookie just as a parting gift. And Vici leave the base 25.5 minutes in, and then first inhib is already down.
Yeah, 5.4 seconds is the cooldown on the Rupture, static cooldown at the moment. Able to zone so effective, and that's very often. You have to respect the full 1 second of the cast coming through from that ability. Dandy, maybe a bit too cute getting down wards. The wards are replaced anyway, but Vici get exactly what they want from that push.
Yeah, Dandy hops out there, blue buff in tow as well, almost running out there, I think, as well. So did a very good job with the buff. And Dandy, it's weird to talk about jungles like this, but he's the centerpiece of this comp that Vici have built.
I mean, it's a consistent story. Whenever we see Dandy's Nidalee, we see him face planning walls, and we're like, okay, maybe his mechanics aren't to par with the Pounce ability, but the pressure he puts out is immense, and it was consistent across the map. Vici, they were able to get their early rotations in. Now they're able to pick up the early inhibitor. This is a game, it's the prototype of a game that Vici plays when they're ahead. and they look wonderful doing so.
Yeah, once again, Vici, a big benefactor there as well. 506 on his Lucian at 250 CS almost here in this game. Really just putting Kid in the dust at this particular point. Almost a 10,000 gold ahead as well. 3 big damage items up for Vici. We say it a lot. His team sets himself up for success, and when they do, this is what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much the Graves' identity with this Lucian build. He's definitely going for early burst. The Culling's going to be hitting for so much damage in fights. With the Zhonya's complete double Zhonya's between Nidalee and Diana, both of them can dive and have the stasis defensive options. So positioning is going to be at a premium already with the Ruptures coming out, with the Death Sentence coming out. Now suddenly you've got divers to add into the equation, even a diving AP Nidalee, like not something you'd expect in a 5v5 fight. Positioning, it's just no fun for IG, and they just need to really separate their targets, because if any of these CCs come through, one of these initiators, one of these divers are going to go in.
Yeah, and that's really Vici's comp here. Get under the turrets, force you under there, siege and poke you down, and if you make a mistake or we catch you in a CC, we can dive you and take the 5v4 from there. And even the culling, like you mentioned, a great tool in this sort of comp. So very creative by Vici, and it looks like a stroke of genius in this game.
And look, they've got dive, they've got siege. You have to remember, we've seen so many siege comps, like Xerath Nidalee. It's just too far into the siege. If you fail with the poke, you don't have any team fighting. But Cho'Gath has excellent team fights, you see. They've got balanced dive and poke. Only really the Nidalee for true poke, though you have to also respect the Q coming through from Diana, because of course it could mean that double engage with the ultimate. And there's just so many things for IG to consider. You can never keep track of all of them. Specifically, if Flash you throw into the equation just cancels animations, extends cast, makes everything different. And IG, they just look like they have no answer.
No, and Kakao going to clear out some more too. Vici going to go back and spend some of their gold. Abyssal Scepter almost complete for carry. He's got a Blasting One plus a Negatron complete. Dandy has another needlessly large rod in his inventory. Apparently not interested in the Seraph's Embrace, because he's probably finished stacking his tier at this particular point, let's be real. Hatong also stacking up the AP. Vici looking for a QSS for a next item. Makes sense as a 4th item, defensive item. They're nice and sensible, and IG just struggling to finish their items at this point.
Vici has the freedom to go for magic resist, because we're talking about armor. Zetai has Aranduans, but there's basically no other armor pickups on Zetai or anyone else on the lineup of IG. They have to respect all the magic damage coming through. It makes sense, but there's so many damage threats. How do you respect all of them?
Good poke there as well. The Rupture lands, and Kitties is forced to tank the culling after the poke that came out. Dragon is back in 10 seconds here. Baron will be 25 after that, I believe. But Vici, I guess the one good thing is that they only have one Dragon. IG can be happy in that. Hatong, though, over the wall, almost gets Rookie to half health.
Yeah, I mean, if he was able to get into melee range, may have had enough assassination damage. Not a big health pool completed on Rookie. Rookie has double summoners. They don't want to give away this dragon, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, a difficult contest here. I mean, it'd be a great 3rd dragon to get if they can secure it. Kakao going to dive in the back, but he can't secure it. Dandy smites it away, and carries ported back in as well. Kakao forced to flash out there. Kid hopping back as well, but Hatong just in the front line doing so much work. Kid gets played back there by Mata Carry. Pops his on his Kakao in the back, just gets shredded by Vici, and that's already a double kill for Lucian. Zetai forced to hop away. Rookie looking low there as well, and Vici going to move in. Vici goes absolutely beast over the wall, and he gets a triple.
So manly is the aggressive flash from Vici, but we already mentioned it. No armor pickups makes everyone squishy, and he's just cutting through the front line like they're nothing. And Vici should pick up another turret here and get a second inhibitor.
Yeah, Hatong going to tank it up as well, which makes sense. At least going to tank a couple bolts here, but the mini wave going to be coming in soon, and IG going to have to give up another inhibitor turret.
And there's a tie. They just had no answer, unfortunately. The double frontline has never been a consideration, because there's been one person diving, whether it was Kakao in the previous fights and dying early. There's been no massive Gnar ultimates. We haven't talked about the Gnar against the wall once, I believe, in this whole game. Vici have fought so well on multiple fronts and just controlled so much space that there's been no potential for a team fight. And look, IG respect it. They surrender.
Yeah, they threw out the surrender. Dandy just pops his on this before it happens, and a big win there for Vici. We've seen a lot of, I would say, one-sided games won by Vici in the LPL. They've been one of the best teams that, when they get ahead, just never letting go of their lead. But that was a very creative poke siege something comp, and Vici played it with aplomb.
And we've seen poke teams beat teamfight teams. That part's not unexpected. But we've never seen that poke team, that balanced poke siege dive team that Vici were able to assemble. Obviously something of their own creation. Definitely not something they showed during the Demacia Cup disaster earlier in the week. But damned if it wasn't effective. Wonderful play from them. All their champs alone, you were like, Cho'Gath, Diana, what's going on here? But when it came to the sieges especially, when they already had the map control, remember, that wasn't a guarantee. The early game could have gone differently. Going behind, especially if IG got an early lead, I think Vici would have struggled. But they used the unknown with the smart gameplay, their sieging was super powerful, and IG, they just had no answer.
Yeah, you can see Rookie there on the screen. Just looks blown away by what happened to him. Had a decent start in his Victor game, ended up with a Void Star from Morelli-Nomicon and a couple augments, and I think IG just kind of got hit by a bus in that game. Vici pulled out something very creative, really fun to watch and very well executed, and IG had no answers.
I mean, the word I'd use page time to characterize those facial expressions is bemused. They're just like, what? What happened? A scouting report didn't say anything about Diana and Cho'Gath. Those were the solo laners. Both of the picks worked out really, really well. The split push was always a pressure when they went for the Nashor's Tooth. And Vici, credit to them, came out with something special.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff there to love it. We'll be back here. Don't go too far, because IG going to see if they can take the second game here against a very creative-looking Vici.